Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what might be looking back? Tonight, I want to take you somewhere quiet, far away from the hustle of highways, strip malls, and blinking city lights. Picture this, a frozen landscape stretching for miles, not in feet, but in feelings. Endless forests, snow-covered hills, and a silence so deep you can hear your own breath. We're heading north, way north, to a place most Americans have never even heard of, a place called Pudasjärvi, nestled in the cold, untouched wilds of northern Finland. It's not on most maps you'd keep in your glove box, but if it were, you'd find it sitting just shy of the Arctic Circle. Remote, isolated, still. Now imagine living in a place like that in the late 1960s. No smartphones, no internet, no constant noise, just family, the land, and the stars above. Life moved slow. People trusted what they saw with their own eyes, and they trusted their neighbors too. But something happened here. Not just once, not just to one person, but over and over again, night after night, week after week. Ordinary folks, farmers, school teachers, taxi drivers started reporting the same strange things. Glowing lights in the sky, beams shining down on the snow, orbs that moved like they were alive. The kind of things no one talks about in polite conversation. The kind of things that keep you up at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you really saw what you think you saw. Now, I know we Americans are no strangers to UFO stories. Roswell, Area 51, the Phoenix Lights, they've become a part of our folklore. But this story, this one feels different. Not because it's louder, but because it's quieter. Because it happened in a place where silence was the norm, and any disturbance, especially one from the sky, echoed louder than any scream. There were no tabloids chasing headlines, no viral videos, just snow, starlight, and stunned neighbors gathering over coffee, whispering about what they'd seen the night before. Can you imagine that? You're sitting by your fireplace, maybe knitting, maybe reading. Your dog starts howling at the window, and when you look outside, there it is, a bright orb floating just above the frozen lake. Not moving fast, not rushing, just watching. What would you do? Would you call someone? Or would you just sit there, wondering if anyone would believe you? Tonight, we begin a journey into that very place where mystery settled over the trees like morning frost. A place that saw more unexplained sightings in a few months than some towns see in a lifetime. And yet, most people outside of Finland have never heard this story until now. This isn't just about lights in the sky. It's about the people who saw them. People like you and me. People who weren't looking for fame. Who didn't want to be called crazy. They just wanted anyone to listen. So, if you've ever felt that tingle at the back of your neck, if you've ever wondered if maybe we're not alone, if you've ever looked up at the stars and felt something you couldn't explain, then come with me. Let's return to Pudasjärvi, to that frozen land beneath the northern lights, and see what the people there saw, because whatever it was, it came for them, and who knows, one day it might come for us too. It was a crisp fall evening in 1969 when the Finnish wilderness, vast, snow-blanketed, and silence suddenly came alive with something no one could explain. The skies above the forested hills of Pudasjärvi didn't just twinkle with stars that night, they danced with light. Not the kind of light you'd expect from a distant plane or a weather balloon. No, these were glowing orbs, the size of basketballs, moving deliberately across the sky, stopping mid-air, zigzagging with an intelligence that made people step back from their windows and ask, what on earth? Or beyond? Could that be? They weren't just passing sights either. People watched them rise from frozen fields, hover silently above pine trees, and sink slowly into icy ravines. One orb larger than the rest floated lazily through the clouds, its edges blurred like a memory from a dream. Below it, smaller lights flitted about like curious fireflies, tracing loops in the air, dipping low over rooftops. In one case, a schoolteacher with a rifle scope saw a luminous sphere so large, it filled his entire field of view. It was like trying to stare down the moon, he said. But this moon wasn't content to stay in the sky, it moved. It watched, and it reacted. Dogs howled at them. Compasses spun erratically near their paths. No engine noise, no wings, no smoke, just pure, brilliant light, and the chilling sense that someone or something was watching back. It's easy to dismiss these stories now, decades later, tucked into the quiet corners of European folklore. But ask yourself, if you had seen a ball of fire the size of a car hovering 150 feet above your front yard, following your car for over 10 miles down a country road, would you sleep soundly ever again? There's something deeply human about these reports, not just fear, but curiosity. The kind that makes you pull the curtains back just a little further, despite your racing heart. That aching need to understand what can't be explained. Because deep down, we're not just scared of the unknown, we're enchanted by it. These weren't scientists or conspiracy theorists reporting the lights. They were farmers, teachers, taxi drivers. People like your neighbor, your cousin, your younger self in a different time. They had no YouTube, no smartphones to go viral. They just had their eyes, their memories, and each other. And when the lights came, they remembered. And perhaps what's most unsettling and beautiful is that the lights never did harm. They simply appeared, like visitors from another time, another place. Observers, messengers, or maybe just wanderers like us, seeking meaning under foreign skies. Even today, in our high-tech world, we haven't solved this mystery. No black box data, no recovered wreckage. Just stories that refuse to fade. But maybe, just maybe, that's the point. To remind us that wonder still exists. That even in the quietest, snowiest corners of the world, the universe might still be whispering, "You're not alone." There's something unforgettable about the way a dog howls when it senses something that shouldn't be there. It was the winter of 1969 in the snow-covered woods of northern Finland, when families started waking up not to the usual silence of the Arctic night, but to the sound of their dogs howling, scratching at doors, some even leaping at windows as if trying to ward off something only they could see. One farmer, Kalle Lasala, sat by his kitchen window sipping warm coffee from a chipped enamel mug when a glow outside drew his attention. At first, he thought it was moonlight catching ice on the tree branches. But then it pulsed, brightening unnaturally, in rhythm, like a heartbeat in the sky. What happened next would become one of the most puzzling and widely discussed moments in Finnish UFO history. A glowing orb, roughly the size of a sedan, began descending slowly behind a ridge. The top of the orb emitted a solid vertical beam of light, not downward, like a spotlight, but upward, as though calling to something above. And the closer it came to the frozen earth, the stronger that light became, until it bathed the snow-covered forest in a brightness that rivaled midday sun. Lasala's modest home lit up like a lighthouse from the inside. His daughter, just 10 years old, cried out, blinded for a moment by the brightness, her small hand reaching for his. Can you imagine sitting in your quiet house, fireplace crackling, only for the night to be torn open by a light that shouldn't exist? But it didn't end there. At nearly the same time, just a few miles away, 4 electric orbs each the size of a beach ball appeared near a power line, floating eerily close to the ground. One blinked out slowly, the others vanished in a flicker. In the morning, the family and neighbors found no footprints, no burn marks, Nothing to explain the 2-hour spectacle, except for one strange anomaly, a circular patch of melted ice at the center of a pond that had frozen solid weeks before. No animal tracks, no wind damage, just an open ring of water under the full freeze of December. And if you're wondering whether someone checked the site, yes, they did. A forestry manager and local teacher used a compass to trace the orb's path. But the moment they reached the ridge, their compass spun uselessly. The needle jerked, then dropped, completely ignoring the Earth's magnetic pull. That detail alone, the compass going dead, is what hooks people. It wasn't just light in the sky. It interacted with our world. Dogs knew it. The forest knew it. And somewhere deep inside, we knew it too. There's a kind of eerie beauty in these tales. They remind us that not everything can be measured or explained. For many older Americans, those who lived through Roswell, through the Cold War radar stories, through NASA's golden years, this Finnish mystery echoes something familiar, the feeling that we're not alone, and perhaps never were, whether these orbs were alien, secret tech, or something beyond both science and spirit. One truth remains. The witnesses still remember what they saw. And maybe, deep down, we're all still trying to understand the night our dogs barked at the stars. In the quiet early hours of September 8, 1969, Addis Kula, a seasoned taxi driver from northern Finland, was simply doing his job driving 6 passengers through the countryside near the village of Pudasjärvi. The road was familiar, the sky calm, and the only sounds came from tires on gravel and the occasional breath of wind. Then, just over the hills, something unusual appeared, a bright, unwavering light. At first, it seemed like headlights from another vehicle. But as they drew closer, Kula and his passengers began to notice something off. There were no other cars. The light didn't behave like it should have. It hovered, moved deliberately, and shifted without making a sound. Whatever it wasn't from around there. Kula's account is more than just a UFO sighting, it's a deeply personal story. One can easily picture him, gripping the steering wheel tighter, stealing glances in the rearview mirror at passengers whispering nervously. In a time before smartphones and dash cams, all he had was his memory and a keen eye. When he pulled over near a wooded ridge to get a better view, he wasn't just indulging curiosity. He was trying to protect those in his care, to make sense of something far beyond ordinary. This moment, caught between duty and disbelief, resonates with anyone who's ever faced the unknown with others depending on them. Later that same night, Kula and a local school teacher, Timo Lane, climbed a small hill near the village school with a hunting rifle equipped with a scope, not out of aggression, but simply in hopes of seeing clearer. Through the lens, Lane observed a massive glowing orb floating within the clouds so large it filled the entire field of view. A smaller orb, visible to the right, slowly moved across the sky before vanishing beyond the treetops. Lane's wife stood beside him, speechless. They weren't ghost hunters, nor thrill seekers. They were everyday people caught in something extraordinary. These stories stir something deeply human. There's an aching need to understand what were those lights. Why here? Why them? For those of us who remember looking to the skies during the space race, the Cold War, or late night sci-fi broadcasts, these tales awaken that same blend of wonder and fear. But what sets the Pudasjärvi accounts apart is their intimacy. This wasn't a blurry object on the horizon. These were slow-moving, silent orbs, witnessed from porches, schoolyards, and frozen fields. They were close enough to light up a living room or reflect in a child's eyes. And perhaps that's what makes them stick with us. In a world where technology answers most questions, these events remain unexplained. They weren't just lights, they were experiences, shared by parents, neighbors, and strangers alike. For seniors who've lived through decades of change, from black and white TVs to landing on the moon, stories like this remind us that the universe is still vast, still full of secrets. They invite us not just to remember, but to belong to a quiet community of observers who know that sometimes the most incredible things appear when we least expect them and linger long after the lights fade. In the early 1970s, a quiet and remote region in northern Finland became the epicenter of one of the most baffling and mysterious UFO waves ever documented. Pudasjärvi, known for its vast forests and isolated fells, saw strange, glowing orbs in the sky, often with inexplicable patterns of movement. These events, so frequent and consistent, left the residents and visitors feeling both captivated and deeply unsettled. However, it wasn't just the sheer number of sightings that made this phenomenon so unforgettable. It was the extraordinary encounters that began to unfold, shaking the very foundation of what people thought they knew about the world. On one bitterly cold winter's night in 1971, two local brothers, Hu and Seppo Kalampi, were working together as snowplow operators, clearing the local roads with a tractor. It had been a long day, and the dark, snowy landscape stretched endlessly before them. Suddenly, their quiet, laborious work was interrupted by an odd disturbance in the sky. A UFO appeared hovering close by. Initially, they were confused, thinking it could be a trick of the light, but then it returned, again and again. The strange, disc-shaped object seemed to be hovering above them, defying any natural explanation. It wasn't long before their confusion turned into unease, and soon fear crept in. Feeling threatened by this persistent presence, Hu declared that if the UFO returned one more time, he would shoot it down. The brothers were reluctant to admit it, but the fear of the unknown, of the inexplicable hovering right in front of them, had overtaken their reason. When the UFO reappeared, the two brothers grabbed their rifles. They fired multiple shots into the sky, convinced they had hit the target. Yet, the UFO vanished, leaving no trace. The brothers searched the ground around them, but to their disbelief, there was nothing, no debris, no signs of damage, just an eerie silence. But the story didn't end there. A few years later, a local man named Untu came forward with a startling confession. Untu claimed that on that very night, he had been inside the UFO that the brothers had tried to shoot down. The beings within, described as tall, slender, and dressed in protective suits, communicated with him. They seemed shocked by the brothers' violent reaction. One of the beings even told Untu, "We are so primitive," referring to humanity's response to their presence. The encounter didn't just stop with words. Untu, deeply moved by the beings, said that they had gifted him the ability to heal. From that moment on, he used this newfound power, even claiming to have healed prominent figures beyond Finland, including the former Russian president Boris Yeltsin. However, the brothers' encounter took a darker turn. After the shooting, Seppo, one of the brothers, was approached by one of the beings. This being, in a calm and almost prophetic tone, warned Seppo of his health, predicting that he would soon die from a seizure, which he did shortly afterward. As unsettling as this prediction was, the beings did not seem threatening. Rather, they spoke with a gentle wisdom, almost as though they were simply offering a warning to a fragile species. This deeply emotional and profoundly strange event, filled with unexpected twists, only adds to the mystery surrounding the Pudasjärvi UFO wave. The emotional impact of these encounters was profound. The brothers were left grappling with the idea that their own mortality had been foretold by extraterrestrial beings, while Untu's miraculous healing abilities raised more questions than answers. The true nature of these beings, were they visitors from another world, or something else entirely, remains as elusive as ever. The legacy of the Pudasjärvi UFO wave lingers in the minds of those who witnessed it, and in the collective imagination of anyone who hears this story today. These events remind us all of the vast unknown that still surrounds us. Are we truly alone in the universe? Or is there something greater watching over us, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? It's a mystery that continues to beckon, inviting us to question, to wonder, and to seek answers that may forever remain just out of reach. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the quiet and remote region of Pudasjärvi, Finland, became the backdrop for one of the most bizarre and unsettling UFO waves in modern history. What began as sporadic sightings soon grew into an extraordinary ongoing event that left a lasting impact on the community and sparked an ongoing sense of wonder and mystery that has never fully been explained. The pattern of these sightings is what sets this case apart, as the phenomenon unfolded in phases that span months, from September 1969 all the way through 1971. What makes this period so remarkable is not just the frequency of these occurrences, but the way they seem to affect every level of society, from farmers to teachers to taxi drivers, leaving no one untouched by the mystery of the unknown. In the beginning, it was not an isolated incident, but rather a sequence of sightings, often occurring in the dead of night, when the darkness of the Finnish wilderness made everything feel even more surreal. As the months passed, the sightings escalated, and the intensity grew. The first noticeable burst began in September 1969, when a series of strange lights appeared in the skies. For weeks, people reported seeing large, glowing orbs darting across the night sky, their movements impossible to predict. They weren't just faint flashes in the distance, they were visible with remarkable clarity, close enough for witnesses to see their distinct shapes. The lights seemed to behave with a purpose, almost as if they were alive, guiding themselves through the night air. One particularly notable wave took place in October 1969, during which the sightings reached a fever pitch. People were left to grapple with the mystery of what was happening, unable to deny the unusual behavior of these objects, their bright, luminescent forms, their rapid shifts in direction, and their startling proximity to the witnesses. It was during this time that a sense of collective wonder began to develop. The people of Pudasjärvi, though initially skeptical, found themselves questioning the very nature of the world around them. Were they witnessing something out of this world? Or was this just some highly secret government experiment gone wrong? As the months progressed, these strange sightings continued to evolve. In November and December 1969, the frequency of sightings tapered off, but the nature of the encounters began to shift. The orbs no longer stayed at a distance. They came closer, much closer, even within 300 feet of witnesses. It was as though these otherworldly visitors were becoming more intimate, allowing people to glimpse them in the most profound way possible. And just when the mystery seemed to be settling into a predictable rhythm, a new development in January 1970 raised even more questions. These UFOs were not just hovering in the air, but appeared to be actively interacting with the environment and the people. A woman named Senritini witnessed a UFO so close that it blinded her with its brilliance, an experience that remained burned in her memory. The intensity of these sightings was no longer just about the objects in the sky. It was about how they made the people feel throughout these months, as each new sighting added to the growing puzzle. A feeling of communal connection began to form. People no longer felt alone in their experiences. The sightings weren't just events, they were part of something larger, something shared among a group of witnesses who all felt a part of this unfolding mystery. The community began to bond over their shared disbelief, their curiosity, and their desire to understand. For the first time in years, they were united by the thrill of the unknown. This prolonged encounter with the unknown was more than just a series of inexplicable lights. It was a journey through fear, wonder, and confusion, a journey that touched everyone who had the courage to look up at the sky. For those who lived through it, the mystery was never fully solved, and perhaps that is what makes it so haunting. The need to understand, to find an answer, still lingers in the air around Pudasjärvi. The truth may never be clear, but the emotional imprint of those months remains, deeply ingrained in the hearts and minds of the people who witnessed it. In the winter of 1969, the quiet, snow-covered forests of northern Finland became the stage for a mysterious phenomenon that has left researchers scratching their heads for decades. The Pudasjärvi UFO wave, as it came to be known, captivated the imaginations of those who witnessed it and continues to spark debates. What began as strange lights in the sky would soon lead to a series of inexplicable encounters that challenged the boundaries of scientific understanding. But what really happened in this remote corner of the world? Was it a natural phenomenon, a secret government project, or something far beyond our comprehension? As the events unfolded, one thing became clear: no explanation, whether natural or man-made, could adequately account for the bizarre occurrences in Pudasjärvi. While many UFO sightings could be chalked up to misunderstandings or natural phenomena, the consistency and vivid detail of these reports told a different story. The sightings weren't just fleeting glimmers in the sky. They were carefully observed, documented, and in some cases, felt deep within the hearts of those who experienced them. For the residents of Pudasjärvi, the UFO wave became a deeply personal mystery. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to find your house flooded with an eerie light, brighter than the full moon, only to watch it disappear as quickly as it came. The sense of helplessness must have been overwhelming. For many, the UFO sightings were not just sightings, they were experiences. Real encounters that left them questioning their place in the universe. In one particularly chilling account, a taxi driver named Pudasjärvi described seeing a glowing orb follow his car for miles, the light steadily growing larger as it moved closer. The encounter left him speechless, filled with a mixture of fear and awe. But what really struck him was not the orb itself, but the strange sense of connection he felt with it. In that moment, as the orb hovered just above the trees, he felt as though he and the object in the sky were tied by an invisible force. A force that neither he nor the other witnesses could explain. It wasn't just the mystery of the lights that kept people up at night. It was the unanswered questions that kept their minds racing. How could such a phenomenon occur? Why were these lights appearing in such remote locations, far from the bustling cities? What did they want from us, if anything? For many, the need to solve the mystery became a driving force. Every new sighting, every new detail, only added to the puzzle, and yet the mystery remains unsolved to this day. Was it a secret military experiment? Perhaps, but even the best minds in the scientific community couldn't explain the electromagnetic disturbances or the unexplainable patterns of movement. According to Professor Johan Oxman from the University of Oulu, there was no natural or scientific explanation that fit the evidence. No one could explain the seemingly intelligent behavior of the objects, nor the reactions of animals, who howled and barked in frantic response to their presence. As the years went by, some people began to wonder if the events were a test not for the people of Pudasjärvi, but for humanity itself. Were we being observed by beings far more advanced than ourselves? And if so, why were they showing up in such a small, seemingly insignificant place? This sense of imaginative wonder has fueled the fascination with the Pudasjärvi UFO wave for generations. Could there be something greater out there, watching and waiting, just beyond our reach? Despite the absence of concrete evidence, the sense of community among those who witnessed the phenomenon is undeniable. Those who lived through it were bonded by a shared experience that transcended the ordinary. They were no longer just individuals, they were part of something bigger, something extraordinary. They shared not only a sense of awe, but also a deep, unspoken connection that has kept them coming back to the story for years. Perhaps that's the true legacy of the Pudasjärvi UFO wave. Not the lights in the sky, not the unsolved mystery, but the feeling that we are all connected, in ways we cannot yet understand. Whether the lights were visitors from another world or just a trick of nature, the experience left a lasting imprint on those who saw them. And for all of us who are still searching for answers, the mystery of Pudasjärvi continues to beckon, urging us to look up and wonder what lies just beyond the stars. In the small, quiet town of Pudasjärvi, located deep in the northern reaches of Finland, something extraordinary happened during the late 1960s and early 1970s. For several months, the skies above this remote region were painted with the unexplained, glowing orbs, mysterious lights, and strange otherworldly craft. Though these events unfolded far away in a secluded corner of the world, they touched something deeper within all who witnessed them, regardless of their location. The Pudasjärvi UFO wave sparked more than just curiosity. It ignited a deep, almost primal connection to the unknown. What happened there resonates with anyone who has ever felt a sense of awe and wonder when facing the mysteries of life. Imagine yourself in that quiet village on a cold, crisp night. You're sitting at home, perhaps reading a book, when suddenly the peaceful stillness of your surroundings is broken by an unusual bright light. It shines through the window, illuminating your entire living room as though it were daylight. You rush outside to see the source of the light, only to find that the sky is filled with something inexplicable. An orb, glowing and undulating, dances above the trees, moving in patterns that defy all logic. Could it be a reflection? A plane? No, this is something different, something far beyond what you know. It's at that moment, standing in under the silent alien glow, that you feel a sense of connection to something greater than yourself. This is more than just a light in the sky. It's a mystery, an intimate, personal encounter that reaches out to the very core of who you are. For the people of Pudasjärvi, this wasn't just about seeing UFOs. It was about something far deeper, a direct confrontation with the unknown. And it's that personal, intimate mystery that draws us in. As we try to wrap our minds around it, we feel the same pull that those who lived through it must have felt. There's something hauntingly beautiful about the idea that we, as humans, can be touched by something far beyond our understanding. But like all mysteries, the desire to solve it is powerful. We feel a deep-seated need to know what those lights were. Were they from another world? Could they be something we've never seen before? And if they are, what is their purpose? Why us? Why now? The questions gnaw at us, urging us to search for answers. The desire to solve the mystery becomes overwhelming, and in doing so, we become part of the story ourselves. As we read about the events or watch footage of them, we realize that we're not just observers. We're participants in the greater human quest for knowledge. This is something that connects us across generations and cultures, the universal human desire to understand what lies beyond the known world. This deep dive into the unknown stirs something within us, all a wonder, a sense of possibility. The idea that there could be other life forms watching us from the stars challenges everything we know about our place in the universe. It is a wonder that fuels our imaginations. For those who have experienced this firsthand, it was a moment that redefined their view of the world. For us, it remains a tantalizing possibility. What else is out there? What else could be waiting to be discovered, just beyond the reach of our current understanding? And perhaps most powerfully, the Pudasjärvi UFO wave connects us to one another. Even those of us who are not there, who are never part of the original sightings, feel a sense of community and belonging. We're all united by this shared curiosity, this shared sense of wonder. Whether we believe in UFOs or not, we are all bound together by our collective yearning for answers and the knowledge that there are still mysteries out there, waiting to be solved. As we reflect on these events, we realize that the mystery of Pudasjärvi is not just about what happened in the skies above Finland. It's about what it means for us as individuals, as a society, and as a species. It reminds us that in a world that often demands certainty and explanation, there is beauty in the unknown, and there is power in the questions we ask. So, the next time you look up at the night sky, remember that you are part of something much larger than yourself, a community of seekers, wondering what lies beyond the stars.